All right, everyone, welcome to our board workshop of March 26, 26. Without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to Christine.
Good evening, everybody. So tonight we're going to provide an update on our 26-27 budget. Since our last meeting on the 11th, the admin team has worked to refine all of our figures and identify a path forward that balances our educational commitments with the fiscal reality that we're in. Our agenda tonight is, as we always do, we're going to revisit our budget goals. I'm going to give you a budget update, and we're going to talk about next steps in the budget calendar. In reviewing our goals, our guiding principles, they remain unchanged from prior presentations. We're committed to maintaining a comprehensive education that the community expects and aligning our resources with the school district's strategic plan. Obviously, we are trying to stabilize our reserves and maximize the use of every dollar spent. And of course, as you know, is my favorite thing is trying to generate aid for future years. Transparency also remains top of our list. So our path forward, our commitment to students remains unchanged. Our plan is to have no reductions in student programmings during the 26-27 school year, no layoffs to staff, and we plan to maintain established class size parameters. While we say that, we also want to let you know that we may lean towards the upper end of these parameters. So a little bit of budget update. So kind of to understand where we are tonight, we've got to look where we were last time. So last time we projected a budget gap of $7.6 million. Our revenues had come in at $109,701,228, which was a 3.38% increase, and our expenses increased 6.91% to $117,360.97. So that's where we started, was a $7.6 million gap. We've done some work on our budget, and I'll kind of talk about how we got there. So that gap that you saw, the $7.6 million, we've identified through our conversations with our advocacy at the state level that we feel strongly that we will land at a 2% increase in foundation aid. So right now I had factored in 1% into our budget, so that $271,000, that is a increase of 1% in our foundation aid only on our revenue side of our budget. We also identified expense reduction of $218,186. That is related to some staffing efficiencies that we found. I believe there was another retirement, and we were able to kind of slide some things around in positions to find some efficiencies there. So that represents salaries and benefits that go along with it. Now I have not been, when you see me present on the reductions in the expense for the retirements that we had, I did not reflect a savings in health insurance on that for those people. I did that just FICA Medi and our teacher retirement system. The reason I don't include health insurance for those retirees is a lot of times they will get that retiree health insurance through the district, so that it'll pretty much be a wash. So we won't experience a savings on that side of it. So that brings us to a subtotal of $7.1 million. And then further looking into things, we were able to, knowing where we were projecting our fund balance to be at the end of the 25-26 school year, knowing we're about 6.5 to 6.7 million right now, we can comfortably reduce our contingency that's built into our 26-27 budget. We are reducing that by $575,000 while still being able to maintain about a 4% contingency, 4 to 4.5% contingency in next year's budget. So that brings us down to $6.5 million, which we plan to bridge with appropriated fund balance from this year, leaving us with a zero gap. This slide just kind of restates what I mentioned in the previous slide, the $271,000 increase in state aid, $253,120 reduce in staff efficiencies, and a contingency adjustment of $575. And I think there might be, we'll have to revisit that $253,000. I think that might be a typo from a previous version. So when you factor those three items in, that first slide that I had showed you, this is updated with those numbers. So your state sources went up $271,000. The items that changed are in red on here. So your gap is now $6.5 million. So we always talk about the ramifications. We understand that we were able to use $6.5 million left over at the end of this year to use towards next year's, but it's basically double. If we look back here, we're doubling the amount that we appropriated in the 25-26 school year. We're appropriating $6.5 million this year. So basically, at this point in time, it's a significant hurdle for 27-28 budget year and beyond to take a look at it. So at the end of this year, if we use that full fund balance of $6.5 million towards next year's budget, we will not have funds to put in our operating or capital reserves at the end of this year, which is what we try to do. And I know we've talked about it at prior meetings that our operational reserves right now sit at about 6% of our budget, and we want that. Most districts are between 15 and 20%. Okay, so our operational reserves are low compared to other districts. We have 10 million total if you factor in our capital reserve as well to that, but we're about 6 million in reserves. So if we move forward and we have to dip into reserves for the 27-28 budget, again, we're not funding reserves, we'd be reducing reserves. We don't want that. That's not something that you want to do. So future ramifications. So, we've balanced this year. We have to focus on the fact that this is a compounding situation with our structural budget deficit. So by trying to solve a recurring problem with a non-recurring solution, fund balance is cash in the bank. Eventually that goes away. When our expenses are going up between 5 and 7%, really driven by contractual obligations and our collective bargaining agreements, as well as, and we've talked about it a lot, and we're advocating on this topic now, focusing on the health insurance increases. Our health insurance rates, one of the plans that has the bulk of our members on it, went up 18.5%. Another one of them went up about 12.5%. So when you do the math on those, it comes out to be about a 15.5% increase in our health insurance this year. So while our expenses are going up at that pace, our revenues aren't. So when they go up 5 to 7% and our revenues going up 3%, that's a structural budget deficit. So, and that compounds over time. The other factor on here is the impact on our operational reserves. I did refer to that slightly earlier, but the importance of our reserves is not just to help when we do have a tough budget year, to help with the operational side of things. That capital reserve is super important, because just like at home, the roof needs to be replaced. Things happen. You have to take care and maintain your facilities and your grounds, and that reserve helps us do that with minimal impact to our taxpayers, or no impact. If we can fund the local share of a capital project through that reserve, there's no tax impact to our constituents in the community. So it's important to plan for a cycle, whatever that might look like for our district, depending upon the 5-year plan that we get back from our architects when they take a look at our facilities and our needs. we need to make sure that we have those funds available to cover that local share in 5 years. So if we're not funding that reserve, we won't, and there would be a tax impact when there is a major, work that needs to be done. So let's talk about the path forward. It's going to take shared leadership and solutions, and I think that this is evidenced by the board and the community and the leadership in the district. I think that we do have shared leaderships, and we are focused on combined solutions. So we need to transition from a short-term fix to long-term fiscal health. We can't rely on one-time fixes of fund balance or appropriating fund balance indefinitely. We can't do that. So our path forward is really about transitioning from short-term solutions to long-term sustainability. So our first bullet point here is about advocacy, which is something that this I'm proud to be a part of this district that is really focusing on that. The current during those ongoing meetings, this is where we've gotten confident that 2% is where we're going to land on the state aid formula, or at least the foundation aid. But we are able to voice our concerns that even that is insufficient when expenses are going up 5 to 7%. But we've actually been able to have a seat at the table and get that across, and we need to continue that effort. Innovation, the district has obviously started, and you've heard this before, about our community partner groups looking for outside of the box revenues and savings. And also, we're always looking for efficiencies in our current operating practices to maximize every dollar. We are reviewing all of our internal efficiencies. That means looking at every vacancy, every contract, every BOE service that we sign up for to ensure we're getting the highest return on the investment. We are also looking at structural savings to reduce our base costs without impacting student experiences. So our goal over the next 12 months is to, identify permanent solutions so that next year when we're sitting before you in March, we have a budget that relies less on savings and more on sustainable recurring revenues. So our next steps are, we will continue to monitor state aid. I have not gotten wind of whether we will have a budget on April 1st from the governor or from the legislature, but I always have my fingers crossed every year. I've done this a long time and been disappointed quite a bit, but always hopeful. It might be mid to late April. We've seen it as late as May. So at some point we will have to take our best guess. If we get more revenue, it means we appropriate less fund balance. If we get less, we'll have to appropriate more. We will adapt. We'll continue to be looking at our expenses in ways that we aren't cutting programs. And then this all leads up to the vote on April 16th by you guys to adopt the budget that we will put forth to the voters. And as we always do, we end it with our budget calendar, looking at the dates ahead. Obviously, I just mentioned the April 16th date where the board adopts the budget. May 5th is the budget hearing, which you will hear us again talking about this, and meet the candidates night. Tuesday, May 12th is the voter registration in district office, and on May 19th is the budget vote and Board of Ed election. So we've covered a lot of ground tonight. I'm glad that we were able to get from a $7.6 million gap to a $6.6 million gap. That came through some hard work and conversations, a lot of conversations to get to this point. I think we have some more opportunities in the budget as we take a look at things and dive deeper into our salaries and benefits and our BOCES expenditures. We just got the BOCES service requests. Some of those numbers, I'm pleased to say, are coming in their rates are coming in a little less. I don't know if it'll be how big of I haven't been able to quantify yet what that impact will be on our budget. So I think there's some opportunities in there for some cost savings as well. So does anybody have any questions at this time? I know I gave you a lot of information. Actually, let me reference the budget book that you have in front of you. We can kind of look at that, and I can tell you how I laid it out. It's laid out a little different than it's been laid out in prior years. In the book, you'll find there's a fund balance and reserve section that gives you all of the charts so that you can reference that. It has a section summarizing out of our software the revenue codes, but I also provided our history on our tax levy and the preliminary state aid runs reflective of the additional $271,000 if we get 2%. So that does reflect that. Our expense budget, updated slide for all of them summarized. And then the categories that are on this overall, I have a tab for each one of them. So you'll see the detail behind that. Right behind this summary expenses is the full printout of all of the expenditures, but then it's followed by category. If there's a question, I try to put budget notes in there for certain items that I had an explanation that I thought was important for you to see. I have not gotten through inputting that information on every single one. We'll be working on that, so you'll have some explanation. But please, if you're looking at a budget line and you have any questions, shoot Tim or I a message. I'll be happy to print out how that was calculated. Understand I'm still diving into some of the salary lines. I think there are some people who were budgeted in one code and paid in another code. So I'm still working on refining that. So hopefully I can give you some better explanations on that. If you see a line swing in a different direction, it might be swinging in the other direction on another line. Okay? Now you can ask questions.
Any questions, anyone? Thank you, as always, Christine, for finding every dollar we can find, saving us every dollar we can save. We like to see that gap going down. It's still obviously concerning how much we have to appropriate from our fund balance potentially this year. It's a little bit of robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that just never, it's a vicious cycle that we're going to need to work to get out of. So I agree, continued advocacy, using our community partner group that to generate some new ideas for revenue sources is going to be invaluable.
I
we can weather this.
The, one of the things that came out of our advocacy at the with Shelley Mayor's office is they're very interested in the conversation, extending a conversation regarding health insurance and the impact. Very interesting, and I don't know that I've said this publicly, but this isn't just a Victor problem or our health consortium problem or New York State problem. It is across the country. ASBO International, which I'm a member of, sent a survey out asking how much health insurance is impacting budget and what districts are doing to mitigate the increases. So it's not just us, it's across the state. Lots of conversations around that. And it's not just impacting us, it's impacting private industries as well. So I don't know what the solution is, but I'm glad that Shelley Mayor is reaching back out to us to continue that conversation. Next week, I'm meeting with our health consortium leadership to put together some talking points to bring back to their Shelley Mayor's office. So I don't know if they're reaching out to other districts and they want more information outside of us, but they may, based on the information that we provide them. And I'm really hopeful that they can find some solutions. Is it going to impact 26-27 budget? Probably not. But, maybe there's some relief somewhere for future budget years to make this more sustainable.
Yeah, I was at a school today to the east, large school to the east, and they have a $17 million issue they're going to be dealing with. And another school I was at has a $4 million issue, and they both said healthcare was the biggest cause. And I don't think people want to air their dirty laundry about this, like in talk, but it's like, this is a problem. Like we're all dealing. Like I want how much collaboration can happen around this to find out what everybody's doing, because like all our decisions are made on making sure that we can maintain, if not make everything better that we have here. But that's not realistic, really, when we have a gap like that. So, but if everybody's doing the same thing and coming at it the same way, then it's not like, because what's the biggest worry? People would jump ship, and the best people we have would want to go somewhere else because we got to make a decision. So if everybody's doing it though and on the same page, it's impacting everybody, you know. So I think it's easier to make a decision when it's a big, massive group of people in different school districts versus Victor's got to decide to do something different to make this work. Just long-term thinking on how we're going to deal with this without impacting what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, and can I piggyback off of what you were saying with regard to hearing it? I mean, it's that's the K-12 environment, but in higher ed, there's the same headwinds are hitting, you know, where I work at the university level. And I think a couple things. One, the stability path forward is very reassuring. That is the commitment, right? It's good that we lead with that. It's good that we say that we are committed to this, but it's also a good cautionary tale for us to say there's a sustainability problem that we're already out in front of that other districts, to your point, are dealing with. But I think this is an economic issue as well. I mean, there are other factors at play that we cannot control. I think we've talked about this in previous meetings. We look at things like what's happening with supply chain. We're looking at healthcare. We're looking at inflation. All these indices are hitting, and utilities, right? You know, I guess my point is these are things that we really environmentally can't often perfectly control, but I do appreciate the fact that we do have a very strategic plan kind of moving forward. And one thing I wanted to draw attention to that I thought was really interesting is, and I'm trying to be brief, but I can't, you know me, I talk, but the constant state aid monitoring that occurs, I'm not sure, I think we're kind of underselling how much effort that is that you undertake. So I specifically want to call that out and say that I'm really pleased and proud that you're really staying true to that and staying on that. I do think there's one issue that, you know, is worth considering, is that we're in a unique position in Ontario County as well. I think we've brought this up in other public forums, but the fact that we don't have the additional sales tax revenue it puts a lot of strain on us in this district. So I think that's worth calling out, that advocacy to the state is really, to me, one of the best solutions to move this forward. I yield back my time.
Well, and to just, that was something that we were very pointed about with our meeting with Senators Mayer and Helming. The sales tax was, you know, they were both talking about the difference between Ontario County districts compared to Monroe County with that 0.5%. It does make a difference. Is it going to alleviate all of our issues? No. Certainly not, but it would give us support in a way that, you know, neighboring Monroe County districts have that little extra. So I think, you know, they were very vocal about looking into that as well, in addition to the healthcare.
Yeah, I was appreciative of that comment from them about helping us navigate that they had helped a county navigate that previously. Yeah. So hopefully we can get some guidance on that, on how to do that. You know, it's never, you know, a great topic, you know, increasing taxes, but I think when you look at the impact on us and how we get compared to Monroe County school districts, and there's that's a huge factor that's different between us and them. And they are competitive in our labor market. You know, we don't want to lose teachers to a neighboring district because they can afford to provide a service that we can't afford to provide.
Any swag on how much that would be if we had that 0.5% applied? I mean, that's real rough numbers, but I'm curious.
So this is AI generated based on information that is in the, like, sales and filings and information that's publicly reported. So I don't want to say that this is factual, but when so when we advocate, we're going to advocate for all school districts in Ontario County. They're all going to be impacted. So what it would do, I believe the model looked at overall sales, what a 0.5% would be. That would be about $5 million for the district on an annual basis.
That bridges a gap.
Well, we're at 6.5, that would help, certainly help, and it would get us to, right, so obviously, it's something that still needs to be explored. Again, don't quote me on that number because I'm, while I love using AI, I don't always, you have to fact check everything, so. It would be significant to us if it was a 0.5% and it all came to the school districts in Ontario County. The benefit to the students would be tremendous. If our share is $5 million, add on the other districts.
Let that sink in for a second. And then just out of curiosity, our consortium for healthcare, how big is that? How, is it just Wayne County BOCES schools or just.
So Finger Lakes Area Health, don't quote me on how many districts are in it. I believe it's upwards of 20, upper 20s. Yeah, I think 27, 28. I could be wrong. I'll get that statistics. That's a good information.
East
So
of Monroe County, so we're not
no Monroe County school districts are in it.
there are some.
Monroe County there's Rochester Area
Okay.
Health, RASP. There's GAP, which is Genesee Area Health Plan. So there's those. So I know we have some going as far west as York. I know we have some as far west as, I believe, Newark. Might even be SOTUS. So that's a great question, and you're giving me things that I want to make sure that I bring up when I have my conversation on Thursday with the group.
Yeah, because that message from Shelley Mayer was very encouraging that she actually wanted the weeds. She wanted the nuts and bolts of the numbers. So I thought that was very encouraging. That she wasn't just blowing us off.
Right, they immediately reached out, which was very reassuring.
Yeah, and I was just curious, sometimes you get those economies of scale, so it's how big are we, what is our consortium?
Right, and they have statistics about if we, and I asked that, if we go to Excelis on the market, what would our rates be?
Yeah.
We are obviously less than if we weren't part of a consortium.
Just knowing all those numbers.
It's still increasing. It's still increasing. And, there's so many factors that go into the rate setting for the consortium. There's the packet they give us is this thick. And we really dive into utilization and how many are high-cost claimants that impact our rate. So many things, and decisions by the board during a time when, during COVID, and there was, high inflation, and the decisions to, keep things flat, for all the districts based on information that they had at that time. And the information they had at that time is they had a fund balance. They don't have a fund balance right now. So therefore the rates are going up at the rate that they are.
Because you're making decisions, you're predicting the future, and you're.
Can't always.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, as always. And we'll see you again at the April board meeting. How are we in April already?
It's clear.
We're clear.